Michael Moraes finishes Gilbert Burns to solidify himself as a welterweight contender, and Mairon Santos does enough to beat Sodiq Yusuff. This is the UFC Fight Night Moraes versus Burns recap coming up next on Fighting with Friends. Welcome back to Fighting with Friends, the undisputed African fighting podcast, champion of the world. It is Sunday, the 18th of May, and UFC Fight Night Moraes versus Burns finished just a few hours ago. And reacting to the card with me is the reigning, defending, undisputed vegan champion of the world. It's Brother Gaia.
I try to do my best Michael Morales impression. What's happening, people? How's it going, 80?
OG, bro, OG. Glad to be back on the same show again. It's been a
Yo,
hot minute.
it feels so good, dude. It feels so good to talk to someone other than just myself.
Yeah, bro, staring at the green light, just talking, bro. It's a trip. By the way, bro, good to have you back. But as always, PG, this is UFC Fight Night, and as always, we start.
At the top of the card. Massive.
And yeah, bro, at the top of the card, we saw Michael Moraes, bro, finish Gilbert Burns and really bring to life what a lot of fight fans feared is seeing Gilbert Burns getting finished like that, bro.
Yo.
Difficult for me to see, bro, and also just, I mean, he like did struggle a little bit, and he like tried to grapple, but like
Mm.
just couldn't find it in him, bro. And it was like very sad to see Gilbert Burns crumble like that, but. Michael Moraes, scary dude, bro. PG. What can you
Scary.
tell us here, bro?
Dude, this Michael Morales kid, he's 25 years old, and I almost feel like we're not going to see him in welterweight by the time he gets to 28, to be honest with you, because he's massive for this
Massive, bro.
division.
Yeah.
He looked like two Gilbert Burns in one person. That's how big he was in compared to Gilbert Burns. Like even Michael Bisping said on commentary when it happened, he's like, can we just take a moment to look at this height discrepancy here and the size difference? Is Michael
Yeah.
Morales really a welterweight? I mean, the dude is massive. I don't know how he cuts down to this division, but anyway, he's making the weight, and I am excited because it adds another talent to the welterweight division that is stacked with absolute killers. We were hyping up Carlos Prates for a while. And remember last year, you and I were talking about this kid. We were saying, let's actually see him up against Carlos Prates. I would love to see that matchup. But before we get to that, this performance was just absolutely amazing. Not a lot to take from it because it was only, 4 minutes of the first round, or not even 4 minutes. It was like 3.5 minutes of the first round. And yeah, he looked phenomenal. I mean, you said it himself. You saw Gilbert Burns try to be quite defensively sound. I mean, he kept his guard up. He was doing all the right things, but Morales was so much bigger. The kill shot actually came around Gilbert Burns' guard. You know what I mean? So Burns didn't do anything incorrect in this fight. He was doing exactly what was asked. Keep the guard up. Don't get sucked into the range. When he does come in, attack him with the over and right. Shoot for a takedown when he gets rocked, or shoot for a takedown when he closes the void. But Michael was just prepared for all of that. He was a lot stronger. He was faster. He was just everything that he wanted to do on this fight. He did phenomenally, and it got him that finish. I mean, I feared it. I feared that. I wanted Burns to put on a show, but I kind of deep down felt like, oh, this dude's gonna put Burns out, and he did exactly that. And I think for Gilbert Burns at 38 years old, he did say in the build-up that he wants to do another title run. Personally, I don't think that's possible, considering that the fighters that he lost to so far in his career are the fighters, and of recent years are the fighters that are currently in that top 10 and top 5. And he lost to all of them technically. So it's like, except for Leon Edwards, obviously. But can he make another title run, 80? I'm not too sure, hey? I'm really not too sure if he can do it, because if you look at that welterweight division, from Joaquin Buckley going upwards, I think they all beat him. I think all those guys actually beat him. Joaquin Buckley, Ian Machado, Kamaru Usman. Maybe Edwards will be a good fight for him. I think he maybe can get Edwards. But Shafkat, Brady, Bilal, JDM, they all smoke him. They all smoke him, I'm being honest. So I just think
Yeah.
that at 38 years old, he needs to rethink that sort of goal to get the title again. I think he's done enough to be considered a very much of a fan favorite, and has done phenomenal things in the welterweight division. He's fought the top talent. He fought for the title as well. Didn't get it, but I mean, he's a mainstay, and he's been a mainstay for a very long time. So I think that 38, if I'm in Gilbert's shoes, I wouldn't be too down if I hung up the gloves at this point, because can I catch these young lads again at this point? I don't think so. But for Michael Morales, knockout of the night for me. I thought he was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, BG. Gilbert Burns title run is an extremely tough sell, especially after this fight. I think even before this would have been a very difficult sell. But yeah,
Hmm.
moving on. Do you think that? Well, who do you think he should fight? I mean, he hasn't retired yet, so he's probably going to have
No.
another fight. And I think this should probably, I
Mm,
do agree, should be his retirement fight. Who would you like him?
mm.
Who would you like to see him retire against?
Um, I actually, has he fought Colby Covington? I
I
don't
don't
think
think
so.
so.
That would be a nice fight to watch, actually. They might even feed Carlos Prates to him, but I don't think that would be nice. So I would say as a retirement fight, give him Colby Covington, two former title contenders. If Covington wins, he stays in that top 10. If Gilbert Burns wins, he retires and goes and sets up to the sunset. You know what I'm saying? So I think that would be a good sell. I don't think that Burns has done enough this last couple of years to guarantee him a fight that's above him. There's Jeff Neal as well. Hands of Steel will be a good fight against him. I think both those guys can, if you think about it, Covington, Steel, Hands of Steel, Wonderboy Thompson, these guys aren't really going to be able to make a title run, right? If you think about that, he has fought Wonderboy Thompson, he beat him, right? He hasn't fought Jeff Neal and he hasn't fought Colby Covington. And I think those are the two fighters that, for the UFC in terms of matchmaking, would be the least risk for fighters that are over 35. And I think it would be the best thing to do for fighters who are considering potential retirement. You know what I mean? Because I honestly, Vicente Luque is fighting on the same fight card as Sugar Sean O'Malley and Merab Valashvili. Michael Venom Page probably won't take that fight because it won't guarantee him into the top 10 if you think about it. So I would say get Gilbert Burns, Colby Covington as a retirement fight, maybe end of the year.
Yeah, I think they should both retire after that fight. To be
Yeah.
honest, let's yeah, just get them both out of there, bro. And yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
again, Gilbert Burns. I mean, both of them, bro. They've both put on many shows for the fans, and like, it'd be nice to see
Facts.
them fight each other as a retirement bout. Kobe Covington can go
Yeah,
to streaming or
definitely.
whatever it is that he's doing these days. And yeah, Gilbert Burns,
Hmm.
you can see him on the Money Moicano podcast. So yeah, bro, he'll still be around.
That's what Bisping told him. I'm not sure if you heard the commentary. Michael Bisping was saying that before the fight, he had a chat with Gilbert Burns, and he was telling Gilbert Burns, you should have actually left the podcasting until after his retirement, not while he's still competing, because it's. And I think it does kind of show up in his performances because he hasn't really gotten a win in his last three, I think, or his last four, something like that. So I think he needs to, and the podcast is doing phenomenally, right? It's he doesn't have to worry about anything. The podcast is sorting him out. So I would say that one more fight and then call it good because he did set himself up for a fantastic retirement if you think about it.
Agreed, agreed. And just one more thing, Marco Moraes, what do you want to see next for him?
You're fascinating fighter, honestly. I want to see him go past the second and third round. If I want to, I know he has two decision wins in the UFC, but that was against lower opponents. I want to see him go. This was a 5 round fight, and I wish he could have gone to the fifth, but he didn't, unfortunately. So I would say it's too soon to put him up into those top fighters over there. So I would love to see him go up against Carlos Prates, if I'm being honest. Even though he's ranked higher than Carlos Prates, they gave Carlos Prates such a high ranked opponent against In Machado Gatti because of the fighting nerds thing, which kind of shows you a tiny little bit of a Dana White privilege if you think about it. So I would say give this kid the privilege. He's 18-0. He's 18
Mm,
and he's got a lot of stoppages to his name, bro. So I would say give him someone a little bit higher. We know Joaquin Buckley's got a fight against, I think, Kamaru Usman, if I'm not mistaken,
yeah.
right? Shafakat's still injured. Brady's still there, but those are too high. So I would say I don't want to see him fighting against any of the guys outside of the top 10 because I think he beats them all. I think he beats
Mm.
Covington. I think he beats Neil, Wonderboy. He beats all that guys. You know what I mean? But you can't get anyone up there just yet. And if they really want to do a fight, really they want to do a fight, give him Leon Edwards. That's what I would say.
Sheesh.
You know
Yeah,
what I
I
mean?
mean, I don't hate that, Brad, to be honest with you. Leon's been on
You
a
know,
slide now, so yeah.
personally, personally, I would love to see him go up against Pratis, right? Pratis lost the fight and he fought up high up the card and he lost that fight, right? Which kind of shows you whether UFC is considering Pratis. So in
Mm,
that respect, I would say then put him up against Pratis. Carlos Pratis versus Michael Morales would be, it would sell out. That would absolutely sell out. But for the sake of
yeah.
rankings, he came off for loss. This boy's 18-0. For me, that's enough to actually push him up higher onto the card and actually got higher up the rankings and get him someone like a Edwards. I
Mm,
was gonna say Brady, but Brady for me did more than enough to actually solidify himself as number two. He should only be fighting up from here. So I would
mm.
say Michael Morales takes on someone like a Ian Machado or Leon Edwards.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, let us know in the comments your thoughts on that one. PG will keep it moving to the lightweight division now. And here we
Okay.
saw your boy Mairon Santos getting the job done here, looking cool and composed as always.
Yeah.
And yeah, bro, Michael Bisping said he kind of looks Anderson Silva esque. I don't know
Mm,
if you'd
I
agree
don't see
with
that.
that.
No, I don't
But
see
yeah,
that.
great performance. This was like a big step up in competition for him. He
Yeah.
didn't look very good in his last fight against Francis Marshall,
Mm,
but I think he put a lot of those doubters to bed with the performance today. So yeah, what can you tell us
yeah.
here, BG?
Absolutely, bro. I agree with you. And I do think also we have to highlight in that last performance that he fought was at featherweight, and he had a very terrible weight cut. Not making excuses, but I think it's quite visible for us to notice when a fighter has a bad weight cut, they don't really perform at their peak performance. They don't really give you their best, right? And I watched these press conference, post-fight conference of Mairon Santos, and first thing I noticed in this fight was how significantly swollen he was from when he fought in featherweight. Like he was significantly bigger in terms of muscle, and he actually towered over Sodiq Yusuff in this fight, which is quite interesting because Mairon Santos was not a lightweight. His whole career he fought featherweight. This was his first fight at lightweight. But it makes sense, right? Because back then he was a kid. Now he's in his 20s. He's filling out. He's naturally this big. So he's a lightweight, in my opinion. And it showed a very good performance. He didn't get tired. He was very difficult to take down. He was hard he had very good base in terms of defending a lot of the shots that Sadiq was throwing at him. And in terms of the boxing and stand up positions, Martin won every single position of that fight. Like he was clean. He landed cleaner. Sodiq didn't really want to get involved because of how the length reach advantage that Martin had on him and also the power advantage. And Martin was saying in the end of the fight, how he was a bit afraid for the fight because he felt that he was going to be undersized. But when he got in there, he realized, oh, I'm actually bigger than this dude. And then you could see he was starting to get relaxed because in the second round he was throwing flying knees. You could see his composure starting to settle once he realized he can actually stand with a natural lightweight guy. And I thought, okay, granted that Sadiq Yusuf isn't really top tier, but he's been in the lightweight for some time and he's fought some great fights. So he's a step up in opponent for Mairon Santos. But I think it was a good debut for him in that division. And I'm really excited to see him compete because I told you about him when I was watching the Ultimate Fighter season. And I made you aware of this name of Mairon Santos. And dude, the ceiling's very high for this kid. The ceiling is very, very high. I think he's going to be a top prospect. I'm not too sure about championship mentality, championship caliber, but that's yet to be seen, right? I mean, 24 years old. Who knows in 4 years' time what he's going to look like in the UFC? You could either go on a three-fight losing streak, or you could be on. You could still be, because he's only 16 or 17-1 at the moment. So we could see him, at 28 years old, being a champion. You know what I mean? Who knows? The sky's the limit for this child. So yeah, let's see. Mario Santos, top performance.
Yeah, I think he's definitely got all the fundamentals there of a good fighter. But like, I mean, I've seen his last two fights, Brian. Like, he looked good tonight, but I'm not like completely convinced yet. Like, he has very good technique and he's
Mm.
very composed and he looks good at times in the fight. But the last two fights haven't really kind of set the world alight. But I can definitely see that there's something there.
Really?
You know what I mean? Yeah, but a lot, absolutely, my bro. Francis
He's
Marshall, like I said before this, I think he lost that fight. That was a
Yeah,
very
I know
close
you. I remember you
decision.
said yeah, but the fight before that,
And
he knocked out Khan in the first round,
yeah,
slept
but
him.
can't awfully, bro. You
You know,
expect can't
I
awfully
mean,
to get knocked out.
that was the Ultimate Fighter finale. At that point, not many people knew who the two athletes were. Yeah, I thought I'll give him praise because I've been watching him fight before the last two fights between the UFC as well. So I've been following a lot of his style, and I'm seeing the growth. And I do think that there is something in there for sure.
Yeah, like I said, there's definitely something there, but it is not like close to being the complete product yet. Like
No, not
his
even.
his fundamentals is getting him by. But I think if he can grow on this, he will be a very exciting fighter here in the lightweight
Yeah.
division.
For
But
me, the
yeah,
biggest thing that he's facing, based on what I'm hearing from his own mouth as well, the biggest thing that Martin Santos is facing, previously it was weight cutting. Now I'm noticing he's got this imposter syndrome going on where he doesn't feel he belongs. So he's fighting a lot of that. He's fighting a lot of low confidence. And I think that he just needs to believe that he's got the stuff, like believe in what you have and it'll show up. And I think this fight tonight, the fight that he had earlier against Sadiq, should at least give him some of that confidence. Because Sadiq is not a pushover. So I should give him
Mm.
some kind of belief going forward in his career.
So do you think he's ready for top 15, or would you like to see him take one more fight?
I don't know about top 15, eh? Oof. Lightweight is frightening to watch.
Think
The
about him
scary
against
division.
BSD. Do you think he
Ugh.
beats BSD?
I think it gives PSD a hell of a fight, actually. To be honest with you. PSD, I don't rate that, man. I think he's a
Yeah,
flop, to
that's
be
what I'm
honest with you.
asking. Like he's like the weak link, I would say, in that top
Yeah.
15.
I would say if they want to give him a top 15 opponent, either PSD or Grant Dawson, that would be. And I think he beats both of them, if I'm being honest. But other than that, that lightweight division is frightening, dude. Just looking at all those names, I'm just thinking, yo, all those guys would take his neck. They would take his
Yeah,
neck. Promise you. They're just too good. And they're too experienced, man. All of them. All those guys, except for PSD and Grant Dawson. But all those guys are and Joel Alvarez, they're all super experienced. They fought top tier for a very long time. I don't see him beating any of them. I mean, look at that. If you are you nuts? Renato Moicano is considered and Rafael Fiziev is considered to be 10 and 11, but they have been fighting guys who have gone on to be champions very consistently.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So yeah, I think Mairon Santos must just play a very patient game and not rush. 24 years old, just be patient, dude. Don't rush it.
yeah. He's got time on his side, so yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one. BG, do you have any final thoughts on this one?
Oh no, I think we can move on. I think I've said enough for that one. There wasn't really a lot to go through it. The fight wasn't that entertaining if I'm being completely honest. I just thought Mairon was looking better. I wanted to see, what I was curious about was to see what it looks like at lightweight. That's what I was curious to
Yeah.
see.
All right, fair. Then we'll keep it moving to the middleweight division, where Dricus du Plessis is, of course, the champion. And here we saw Nasr Sultan Ruziboev defeat Dustin Stotzfus by unanimous decision. And yeah, this was, I mean, it was a close fight. Let's put it that way.
Ah,
Um, but yeah, not great. But yeah, Ruziboyev used his reach advantage and he looked like the better fighter on the feet, I thought.
He was, yeah.
Stolzfus tried to make it dirty and he succeeded at times. But yeah, I think the right decision over the course of three
Mm,
rounds.
mm.
See you where you're winning as I was previewing this one.
Yeah,
Anything you
dude.
want to say here?
Dustin still just get this dude off the U. Get him out of here, dude. Send him back to Germany. Get this dude away here because he's a boring fighter, my friend. Uh, the only thing I'll talk about Ruziboev is that he didn't finish him, and I'll say that's a problem for me. I expected him to finish this fight, and he didn't. So that made me go, whoa. Because before I watched him fight, and I thought, okay, he's not too bad. This guy can throw down. He's big for the middleweight. He's got some power. He's aggressive. So I thought he was going to finish Stotzfus because Stotzfus is just one of the most annoying and boring fighters you would ever watch in the UFC. And I thought, and for Stotzfus to take Ruziboev to a decision made me bring down my opinions about Ruziboev. Actually, I was like, you couldn't finish this guy. Yeah, and you let him take you down twice also? Like, nah, man. Nah. Get these guys out of here. Dock their pay even. That's what I would do. I'd be like, you guys get 5% off your 5% discount removal of your fighter purse because that was a boring performance. The only thing I was fascinated about the fight was the spinning heel kicks that Ruziboev was throwing. He threw about 5 of them and
Yeah.
still was blocked it all. And I thought, but other than that, these guys were looking at each other like, come, you punch and I'll punch and then I'll punch you back, and then I'll let you take me down, and then we'll lay you for a bit to recover, and then we'll get up again and throw another punch. It looked like that, man.
This
Look at the
is number
choreographed
one
fight.
bullshit.
Exactly. It was bullshit. Thank you, Khabib. Get these guys out of the screen, 80. I don't want to say anything else. They're kind of ball fest for me for that main card.
Why do you hate Stoltzfus so much, bro?
Because he sucks ass, bro. He doesn't put on any good performance, and like, Moose Bush knocked him out within the first round, and they were brassa, and I was like, come on, he looked so frightened in that fight. So I was like, nah, he didn't. Watching his performances in the UFC doesn't leave me going, oh, I want to watch this dude again. You know what I mean? And for Ruziboev, he did have that caliber. He did have that aura about him that he was going to put on some hell of a good performances. But he couldn't knocked out. He couldn't put away someone like Stotzfus. You know what I mean? That
Mm.
doesn't leave a good taste in my mouth, if I'm being honest. And the middleweight division, if we talk about that middleweight division, right? And we talk about some of the guys in there, even the lower tier dudes in the middleweight division would sleep both these guys. You know what I'm saying? So for
Yeah.
that reason, I'm like, Abu Smagomedov is ranked number 15, and that was the guy who stopped Stoltzfus in Stoltzfus' last fight. And Abu Smagomedov went from being almost top 5, they're ranked number 15 now. So I'm just like, there's a reason why these guys are unranked, and they should stay unranked, in my opinion.
Give thanks, BG. BG with some harsh words for some of the undercard fighters on the middleweight division. But yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Should Dustin Stotzfus be cut from the UFC? In that
Yes.
case, BG will keep it moving to the featherweight division. We saw Costa defeat Julian Erosa by unanimous decision. And yeah, this was a good fight. This was quite entertaining. These
Amazing.
guys really, really stood in the pocket and traded sometimes. Very entertaining. And yeah, just you could see these Oaks trained for 3 rounds because by the end
Yeah.
of 3 rounds they were done, bruh.
Yeah.
They left everything out there. It's great to see. But yeah, the right decision for me. It was a very close fight, though. Very close fight.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts here, BG?
Yeah, dude, highly entertaining. Now look at this one. This one went to decision as well, right? In comparison to Stotzfus and Ruziboev. But look at the difference in performance. Like both these guys weren't trying to set things up, and they were like, "No, we are gonna go in here and I want to get a performance. I want a bonus tonight, my bro." That's what they want. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because the UFC, I only found out last week that the UFC only allows $200,000 of bonus money for the event or something like that, like so 150,000, something around that amount, right? Which means only 3 fights on the fight card is most likely going to get a bonus, or 4 in total of a total of 11 bouts, sometimes 12. So that makes it very difficult for fighters to get a bonus, which then in that rhetoric, you should be having fighters going out there balls to the wall for that bonus, right? Because they complain about fighters pay and so on and so on and so on. So this fight showed me that these athletes were like, we want that freaking bonus. You know what I mean? Julian Erosa got rocked and dropped within the first round, and then came back. Was he dropped? No, he was rocked almost out of there. Came back and then held his guard up and took the fight to Mekazale. You would have thought that Julian Rosa would have been like, "Hey, be cautious because this dude rocked me," and he didn't. And he walked Mekazale down, but Mekazale fought almost flawlessly, in my opinion, because he was throwing all sorts of techniques, spinning back kicks and stuff,
Mm.
making Julian Rosa shoot when he didn't want to shoot. It was a beautiful fight because we saw a full array of mixed martial arts. The guys were throwing all sorts of strikes. There were elbows in there, and look, you can see on screen 3 out of 10 takedowns. The other one got 2 out of 3. So these guys were really trying to win. They were really trying to win, and that's why they looked so tired after that third round. Um, Great performance from Milky. I thought he looked elusive. The only thing I really wanted to, I would maybe mark down on him was maybe the killer instinct, because he had Julian rocked in the first and third round and couldn't put him away. So maybe if he can maybe put some strength training in his camps to get a little bit more power, and then he can maybe knock people out, because he fights really well. He's got great technique, and he's able to dodge his opponent really well. Because Julian Rosa is not a slouch. The dude can bang. He can bang really well, and I mean he's hard to put away. And I just thought that both guys put on a performance where I actually would love to watch them fight again. Not necessarily each other, but I wouldn't mind watching. If I see Julian Erosa on a card, I'll be like, I'll tune in to watch him. Mercazeo
Yeah.
as well, I'll tune in to watch him as well. So I just thought, and at the end of the day, I think these guys put on for me fight of the night. I'm not sure if it was fight of the night. Oh, it is.
I think
I got
I
fight of
think
the
it
night.
was, yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
look.
But yeah, great performance there by both athletes, and this puts together a 4 fight streak now for Costa. Do you think he's ready for top 15? We've got the likes of Calvin Keita still in the
Mm,
division.
hmm
There's 50K Ige, David Onama. Do you think he's ready for that level, or one or two more?
Ooh, maybe one more fight there. I think Calvin Keita, if they really want to give him a ranked opponent, but I do think that the niche David and Nama, those guys are starting to look really good, and I think they will beat him. They will beat him for
Mm.
sure.
All right, so one more for Melchizedek. Let us know
I
in
just
the
think maybe one
comments
more
your
fight.
thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. But okay, BG, that rounds out the main card quite nicely for us. I'm gonna hand over to you now to
Hmm
talk about the prelims. So whenever you are ready,
Okay,
please take it away, sir.
let's go for that. Dude, the prelims for me were probably should have been the main card just because of how all these fights happened. 5 fights on the prelims, 4 finishes. Like, come on, hella exciting. I'll start with Gabe Green, who took on Mateus Camilo. And Mateus Camilo came into this fight with a lot of hype. They were sort of talking about his power, his aggression, his overhand right that he has. And he was throwing that, and there was a moment where I thought that Green, if he didn't have his guard up, he probably would have gotten slipped because the dude does have a lot of power. But Gabe Green coming down from welterweight into lightweight, being the bigger man, you could see utilize his range. In the first round, he was just doing a lot of reads. He wasn't really throwing that much. He was just reading a lot of what Mateus was doing at him. And then in the second round, you could see him put the pressure on. Coaches even told him, "Don't be scared to wrestle. Wrestle with the guy." And that's exactly what he did. He took it to the ground, and then Mateus landed. I think he had either was a triangle. He had a triangle locked, and Gabe Green picked him up, slammed him, reversed the triangle, got to Mateus's back, sunk in the rear naked choke, and it was a beautiful finish. And I thought he looked good. His striking isn't that phenomenal, but I thought his grappling was really good, and I enjoyed the way he got that finish. So that was a great performance from Gabe Green. Then we're going to move down to our boy Jared Gordon, who seems to be a bit of a fan favorite. He took on Thiago Moises, who was also a very good striker. Thiago Moises has arrived into the UFC. Jade used to speak a lot about him as a top striker to watch. But I think people found out that he's a little bit of he's made out of glass. You can touch him with a jab, he'll fall. And that's exactly what we saw in this fight. Jared Gordon just waited for him to come in. He threw a lazy jab, slipped it overhand right at him, basically slipped him from that overhand right. Thiago Moises went down, eyes were closed. There was one more follow-up shot. Didn't need to do that because he was already knocked out at that point. But I mean, you know, these things happen in combat sports. And gave Jared Gordon a very good win. I'm surprised he didn't get a bonus for that. I mean, that was a fantastic knockout. But anyway, good fight, good win. Maybe give Jared Gordon against Mairon Santos next if they want to do something like that. That would be a fascinating fight to watch. But yeah, good fight for Jared Gordon. Then we're going to move down to a UFC debutant in Yadir Del Valle. I'm fighting out of Cuba. Featherweight, good featherweight prospect. Actually, looks a little bit featherweight if you ask me. I don't know how he makes the weight, if I'm being honest. The dude was massive in there. Conor Matthews didn't want any of that heat. You could see he looked very sluggish in the fight. Even his ability to kind of walk out of Yadir's range, he looked like he was just slow to react to any of the stuff that was thrown at him. And there was a moment where Conor Matthews threw a high kick, and Yadir caught it, kind of just tipped him over, went down into the ground position, and then you could see how comfortable that day is because this is actually what he does. Wrestling is his bread and butter. Jiu-jitsu is what he loves. Striking is actually his tertiary weapons. He only got used to that much later in his career. And you could see once they got to the ground, how comfortable he looked, and he sunk in his rear naked choke beautifully. I was like, well done. So I'm very excited to see more of Yadir. I'm being honest with you. I think that's a featherweight prospect for sure. Is he going to stay in the division? I don't know. We might just see him go up to lightweight because he does carry a lot of muscle, and I do think that could be a little bit of a deficiency as he progresses into the UFC further in that division. You might see him get beaten by the weight cut rather than an opponent. But fascinating fighter to watch regardless. And then we're going to move down the card a little bit to Luana Santos. She took on Tainara Lisboa in the women's bantamweight division. So these are a little bit bigger women, and Luana Santos came up in weight for this fight. And she looked fabulous, dude. I thought she was a little bit slow in the first round. You could see she was starting to find her range. But Tianara didn't really do anything to make her worry about stuff in the first round. She was just kind of also just walking around, looking very sloppy, in my opinion. And then when Liana Santos just took her down in the second round, she had a way with her and was kind of bullying Tianara Lisboa in that second round and ultimately flattened her, got the back, flattened her out, sunk in the naked choke. Beautiful finish. And yeah, I'm amped to see what Liana Santos looks like in this new division. She was struggling in the was it the flyweight? She was struggling in flyweight before this, and I'm quite strawweight, sorry. So I'm quite amped to see what she looks like now in this new division because she does look nice and tall and pulled out really well for the division. And once she gets to jiu-jitsu, she looks deadly there. So good fighter for bantamweight because bantamweight needs a lot of more fun fighters to watch, and I think Santos can be that. I'm not gonna say it with a lot of confidence because it's only her first fight in this division, but let's see what she looks like in the next maybe second or third fight in bantamweight. We can make a decision after that. But let's move on to the women's strawweight division. We had Elise Reed. She took on Denise Gomez. Denise Gomez, we know what she's all about. She's a power puncher. That's what she does. She's not really anything more than that. Doesn't really throw a lot of kicks. She just wants to box and knock your ass out. That's what she does. She's stacked. She's durable. She's basically Jessica Andrade second coming, even though Jessica Andrade is still in the UFC. But I do think that she's a second coming, especially because Jessica Andrade is actually in her corner, one of her main coaches. You can actually see by the style of Denise Gomez. basically in the first round, Elise Reed was utilizing her taekwondo, right? She was utilizing the reach. Some of those deep kicks was going out, but she had her hands down a lot. Right? A lot like taekwondo fighters, bounce, 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 but don't keep their guard up. And Denise Gomez threw her over and right in the first round to fish to see what Elise was going to do about it. Didn't defend it very well. I think Denise Gomez realized if I hit this woman, if I'm going to just let my hands go, she's not going to love it. And the second round, that's what she did. Jab over and right. Denise was like, oh my gosh. And Elise was looking, seeing stars already, and then basically Denise Gomez just chased her down, landed left right combination, took, and basically dropped it from there and down and pounded her. Elise didn't know what she was doing. In fact, Elise looked like she actually didn't want to take the. You could see once she got hit the first time, she was like, I don't know if I actually want to fight anymore because I don't think she ever got punched like that before. There's a lot of power in Denise, 25 years old. I think she got performance of the night. I don't know if she got bonus. But I know she's got the performance of the night. Yeah, there we go. Um, punches very hard. 25 years old. We could see someone that could make a run here. You know, like I said, another Jessica Andrade type. But when she gets taken down, she doesn't look that great there. So let's see. Let's see what she looks like. She's still very young. There's a prospect in her hands. We could potentially see a future strawweight champion on Denise Gomez. And then this prelim card is actually quite exciting. Then we move down to the flyweight division for the men's. We had Yusuff Park, who took on Carlos Hernandez. Great fighter as well. Carlos Hernandez has got good boxing. He came into the fight on a high because he won his last two, I think. Yusuff Park is undefeated. I think he's 10-0 at the moment. And he looked phenomenal, dude. He looked like he wasn't even concerned about anything. He stood up really well, utilized his jab, but then took it to the ground where he felt more comfortable. And once he got to the ground, he was just at peace there and set up his rear naked choke really, really well. And yeah, good performance. We couldn't really see much more than that because the fight didn't go that long. It was like a minute before he shot for the takedown and got it. And then he just kind of, yeah, he was at peace there. You could see Hernandez didn't really want to stay there for much longer and kind of gave up his neck. Using Park choked him out and looks phenomenal, dude. And a good prospect for flyweight. He's undefeated, so let's see what he looks like as they progress. And then I'll just conclude it off with Tisha Pennington or Tisha Torres Pennington. She took on Luana Pinheiro and she beat her, and I kind of thought she was going to beat her by decision, actually, and she won by decision. Luana Pinheiro, why is she even in the UFC? Like, why is she here? UFC's paying her just to lose the whole
Do
time.
you
I
want to
think, if I'm
watch
not
that?
mistaken, yeah, she's consistently losing, bro. You know, yeah, she's on a 3-fight slide, four, 4-fight slide. Why are you still contracted? Anyway, I'll just conclude it over there. Eddie, let's get you back on the screen.
Give thanks, BG. BG keeping you up to date there with quite an entertaining prelim card. So give thanks there to the UFC. So with that, BG, we'll go to some final thoughts as well as a post-fight rating for the card, please, sir.
Yo, if the prelims weren't that exciting, I probably would have given the card a 4. Because the main card only had 3 good fights. The Erosa fight with Merkizeo, even Mairon Santos' fight was okay. It wasn't really that amazing. It was okay.
Mm.
But I mean, Morales did really well. I mean, he stole the show for me. So my final overall rating for the fight card, I would give it a 6 because the prelims kind of saved it for me. But I'm really excited to see Michael Morales grow in this organization.
Fair play, BG. Give thanks. I haven't seen the prelims, so I'm gonna give the main card a 5. Yeah, I mean Michael Morales very impressive, but I was very sad to see Gilbert Burns lose. Myron Santos looked decent at times, but like you said, didn't set the world alight today. And then yeah, the opening bout was decent. Bit of a
Mm.
snooze fest with the Ruziboev. So yeah, I think 5 is a fair score. But anyway,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, if you have made it this far, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
I watch your
Watch the
podcast
podcast
every
every day.
fucking day.
Chill. But okay, BG, that is UFC Fight Night Marias versus Burns. And thank you so much to all of you for watching. And we are out of here.